One of the lessons learned from the past 2 years of the pandemic is that humanity is deeply connected, and the actions of people in one part of the world have consequences on people in an entirely different part of the world. This couldn't be more true when it relates to the issue of climate change.
More than any other issue, climate change is on the minds of teens, and for good reason. Climate change will be the driving force for every social issue, including public health, income inequality, immigration, and the fight for valuable resources needed for business, transportation, and life.
To help us do that today, Corey Stern will lead a discussion among a diverse panel of activists. Corey is an attorney who has specialized in helping children and families impacted by lead poisoning in their drinking water. In fact, Corey brought one of the largest settlements in history to bear when he represented school children in the Flint, Michigan water crisis, who were impacted by contaminated water in their homes and schools, and won. While he has had many professional successes from defending children, communities, and the environment, it is important to remember that he fostered his leadership right here in BBYO. Please join me in welcoming Corey Stern to kick off our discussion.
Joining Corey on our Rockstar panel is Nikki Fried, who we met last night. Nikki is an environmental activist and has dedicated decades to defending our environment. From legalizing hemp for farmers to recognizing the climate crisis as an existential threat, Nikki refocused the Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services Office of Energy to address the intrinsic link between energy and our climate crisis.
Let's also give an enthusiastic welcome to Sophia Kianni, an Iranian-American environmentalist studying climate science and public policy at Stanford University. She's the founder and executive director of Climate Cardinals, an international nonprofit with over 8,000 volunteers in over 40 countries working to translate climate information into over 100 languages. She represents the United States as the youngest member of the inaugural United Nations Youth Advisory Group on Climate Change.
Last but not least, we are joined by Carly Matthews, the Communications Director at the American Conservation Coalition, a nonprofit that engages young conservatives on environmental issues like climate change. ACC is dedicated to mobilizing young people around environmental action through common sense, market-based, and limited government ideals.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Corey Stern. I appreciate you giving us the opportunity to talk to you for a few minutes about the issues of climate change. And I also want to thank you for just having us here. Most of us who were involved in BBYO a lot of years ago forget how many of you still do this and care about this and have made this such a big part of your life that you'll take a weekend or a week to come be with each other at times where your friends back home might be doing other things. So climate change it's a very nuanced thing. We all talk about it, we know it's a bad thing, but a lot of people don't even really understand what it means and how it happens. So here's just a brief overview. I took some notes backstage. When the climate changes, the global temperature goes up. That affects our water cycle, which means how much it rains. Water then evaporates faster, there's higher levels of water vapor, and that means more heavy rains. Because there's more rain, the soil cannot absorb all of the water, and the water flows and picks up bad stuff, like fertilizer or other contaminants, but because there's so much of it and the soil can't absorb it, it ends up in our water system. Because it ends up in our water systems, it makes it much harder for people to have clean water, and that typically affects the communities that are the most impoverished amongst us and that have the least access to resources. So the three ladies who are on this stage have made their life's work about, on some level, climate change. And so I'll start with the individual who may be the very next governor of the state of Florida, Nikki Fried. Presently, she's the Commissioner of Agriculture for the state of Florida, and in her job, Nikki has to try and balance the effects of the environment while simultaneously making sure that farmers and agricultural communities are able to thrive. And so, Nikki, how do you balance the need for conscientiousness when it comes to the environment with the idea that people need to make a living and eat and support their communities through agriculture.
Well, first of all, good morning, everybody. Again, it's great seeing everyone. And Corey, I'm going to take you on the campaign trail with me. So this is really one of the hardest parts of my job, is being able to take that exact balance. Because unfortunately, throughout the course of history, there has not been a balance. That everything has been so focused on the production of agriculture, the big companies and chemicals that are going into our water supply. So as you know, first of all, also the first Jewish female ever to have been elected statewide in the state of Florida. And so came in it with a very different perspective. For the first time ever in Florida to actually create this balance. So we've gone through and changed our best management protocols in the state of Florida using science, using new data, new technology, new innovation. One of the first things I did as commissioner, we actually took a trade mission to Israel. Because look, Israel has done it right. Israel has been able to be one of the most fertile lands in the world. And so taking new technology and utilizing it so that our agriculture industry can use less fertilizer, less pesticides, less chemicals. Because look, at the end of the day, agriculture is actually the best stewards of the land. They care about the land, they want to give back, and they want to make sure that they're profitable. So by creating new opportunities for them to use new ideas and new technology, it actually starts to create that balance. But there's a give and take, because they still want to make sure a lot of them are third, fourth, fifth generation farmers that have been used to doing the same techniques over and over again. So it's about making sure that we are constantly working with agriculture, working with our environmentalists, and creating that balance. That is going to take some time, but they want to do this. It's a matter of leadership and a matter of standing up for what we believe is right, because Corey is correct, that if we don't start addressing some of these issues today, and quite honestly yesterday, we're going to have an issue really kind of moving forward in protecting our environment.
Thanks, Nikki. Sophia, you're not much older than many of these kids. Sophia's still a teenager, and she has made it her life's mission at a very young age to advocate for the environment. What can all of the young people that are in the crowd today, what could they do on a daily basis in their own lives? Just, you're doing things huge for the world. Not everybody has the time or inclination to make it their life's work, but every one of us on a daily basis can do one thing to help with climate change. So what's that one thing that these folks can do to help?
Well, I think it's important for me to say that I started this work when I was just 12 years old, and the way that I actually started my nonprofit, Climate Cardinals, is through a singular TikTok. I made a TikTok about the importance of climate education and about how important it was to translate climate information into over 100 languages. And we had thousands of volunteers sign up to work with us. And anyone can make a TikTok. Any one of you could make a TikTok. And so there's no reason why I should be on this stage talking about this issue when I truly believe that every single person in this audience has the possibility and the capabilities to do the same work that I'm doing. Because the truth of the matter is that our generation, young people, we're experiencing climate change-induced weather disasters at a rate 3 times higher than our grandparents. And so I would say, honestly, the key for young people is to get out there and to start volunteering with grassroots climate organizations. I started with working with local groups, Fridays for Future, Extinction Rebellion. I think that every single young person can do that work. It's just a matter of finding a group, an organization, a club in your area and starting to get involved. But I genuinely believe that it's just about that, finding that passion for the work and realizing that climate change is one of the most important issues of our time, and it's critical for young people to get involved.
All right. Thank you, and thanks for your work. All right, Carly has made her life's work about communication about climate change. She tries to put, I don't think as highly as most of these folks, so I have to put it in like simple terms. What I think Carly does is she puts people in the same room to have important conversations about this issue, because born out of those conversations sometimes comes the best ideas. So as young people who are here from all over the world, who all probably care on some level about climate change, how do they get more involved in the discussion, and what as a country and as a world can we do to incorporate young people into these conversations?
Yeah, absolutely, and thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here today. I work for the American Conservation Coalition, and we were founded to engage conservatives on environmental issues like climate change. So Corey is right. I spend a lot of my time in rooms where people disagree with each other, but we have a common goal of addressing environmental challenges. Like Nikki said, we work with farmers, foresters, ranchers, agriculturalists, outdoorsmen to really get this issue at the forefront of their minds and see how each of them can contribute on an on-the-ground level. This fall, we ran a campaign where our branches went out and planted more than 400 trees, and it seems like a small thing, but that's a way that you can get involved on the ground and really make a difference and build community.
Okay, well, I think it's about time for us to wrap up this section. I know it's been riveting. But just remember on a daily basis, just think once a day for yourselves, what am I doing and what can I do to maybe help this issue? Whether it's what you're eating for lunch and, how much water you're consuming at any point in time, or conserving at any point in time, or just asking questions of the people around you about how you can help with this issue. As long as you're thinking about it and talking about it, you usually find some good answers to stuff. So thanks for having us. We appreciate you, and go BBYO.